Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this, the Clown Decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And in today's video it is a strange mix of, a couple of white pills and, I guess, grey pills. Just news stories that aren't unexpected, or at least a big one isn't, but they kind of show how much Britain has been taken for fools in the past. So let's get straight to the good news first. It is Friday after all. Liftoff, first ever migrant sent to Rwanda in a historic move that will help stop the boats and remove thousands more. It is the first time the government has ever relocated a failed asylum seeker to a third country in what ministers are hoping is the first of thousands. The unnamed migrant was flown out of the UK on Monday evening and was unpacking his bags for a new life in sunny Kigali yesterday. It is the first time the government has ever relocated a failed asylum seeker to a third country in what ministers are hoping is the first of thousands. After his bid to stay in Britain was rejected at the end of 2023, the man, who is of African origin, voluntarily accepted passage to a new life in the Central African nation. He was sent on a commercial flight and handed around £3,000 from the British taxpayer to help relocate under the terms of the deal with Rwanda. And if it turns out the guy is Rwandan, this is an incredible incentive for Rwandans to literally hop over to France, get a boat over to here, purposefully fail their asylum application and basically just be given £3,000 for free to return home. So I'd argue part of the deal needs to change, where if the person turns out to be Rwandan, then they don't get the money. That is what I'd argue. But either way, I think this is okay. I think this plan is okay. Just send people straight to Rwanda, fine, give them some money to help relocate them, whatever. The whole point of this is that we are saying you can't stay in Britain. We are sending you to this safe third country. You know, if you want to be an economic migrant, be an economic migrant there. Economic migrants have not been this huge boon to GDP per capita that we were promised 10 years ago, and that for some reason politicians and the media still think they are today. The removal was part of a side scheme to the forced deportation of illegal immigrants policy that is set to begin flights in July, but there were sighs of relief in Whitehall last night in the first removal, and Rwandan processing went off without a hitch, in what planners have dubbed a proof of concept success. A well-placed source said this proves it's possible and legal for Britain to remove failed asylum seekers to Rwanda successfully and smoothly. In March, the Home Office confirmed the voluntary relocation plan for anyone caught in Britain with no right to be here. They said then that Rwanda stood ready to accept people who wish to rebuild their lives and cannot stay in the UK. The side deal is for those who have already gone through the asylum process and have been refused permission to stay, rather than channel migrants who enter illegally. In other words, this was completely voluntary for the guy. He didn't have to do this. What happened was he went through the asylum process after arriving here, failed his asylum process, so wasn't a asylum seeker, so was here illegally, but they gave him a deal of, look, you can move to Rwanda with £3,000 and you can never return here. And so he voluntarily took that. In other words, this man didn't technically come here illegally. He probably came here through the safe and legal route, probably from Afghanistan or something like that. However, after being investigated through the asylum system, it failed, and so obviously he couldn't stay here. So he had the choice of either being sent back to Afghanistan or sent to Rwanda. He chose Rwanda. Again, completely voluntary of him. You need to bear that in mind for a very, very good reason. And that reason is that Sky News actually spoke to the man, gave him an interview through one of his friends. So, I guess we may as well get straight into that interview. Take it away, Sky News.
How is he feeling?
الان چه احساسی داری ایمان؟
الان واقعا احساس کنم که چون پایان خط رسیدیم.
He's feeling so bad. He's just feeling like in prison, in jail.
Well, he is here illegally now. I mean, it looks like I was right that he was an Afghanistani, but for whatever reason, I don't know the details, the Home Office has decided that he is not a genuine refugee, and so yes, he didn't have permission to stay here, and so yes, while he was here, he was technically a criminal, and so feeling like he is a prisoner of some sort, yeah, that's understandable, because he is being treated like that because that's what he is. He tried to get through the asylum system via a safe and legal route, no doubt, and then it turned out he wasn't a genuine refugee and therefore didn't have permission to stay, and therefore had a choice, either go back to Afghanistan or head to Rwanda with £3,000. He chose the £3,000 to Rwanda, so he went there, again completely voluntarily, and now he's complaining, oh, I feel like a prisoner, please do something for me. No, you had your choices, you took one, you're not our problem anymore. But of course, Sky News are there to try and pull at your heartstrings and say, oh, this poor asylum seeker, he didn't have any choice, he was forced to Rwanda. Nah, he had a choice. It's just he didn't have the option to stay here, as is reasonable.
And where is he?
تقریبا اون بگی کجانی الان برار؟
آره یه ساختمانی مال سرکوه نام همون نزدیک چسبیدی یعنی تو فرودگاه گتویه
Broke house in Gatwick, as you say.
Oh, so they didn't even manage to call him when he was in Rwanda yet. So it makes even more sense that he's a prisoner. He's still in Britain, illegally, therefore of course he's going to be treated like a criminal. He is one while he is still in the country. And obviously when he's deported over to Africa, in Rwanda with his £3,000, he'll probably have a different perspective on it. He probably won't actually openly say that he feels better over there, but he probably will do, because the pictures I've seen of the Rwandan detention centres and the houses built for the failed asylum seekers look really nice. In fact, they're so nice that they actually sold them off to private people over in Rwanda, because it's taken so long to actually send anyone over there.
It's cut out.
Yeah, because he need to top off.
Hang on, he's going over to Rwanda and he called you? Correct me if I'm wrong, but when I had a pay-as-you-go mobile phone, it didn't cost you minutes or texts if you received the call or you received the text. I mean, maybe it's different for Lycra Mobile, but that was at least my understanding. Anyway, at least Sky News can still interview his friends.
His detention has left his friends in shock. Originally from Iran, he'd been in the UK for almost 2 years.
Alright, so Afghanistan was a pretty good guess, but no, he's actually from Iran. Again, I assume he came over via a safe and legal route. And as we say, he's failed his asylum application. How it took 2 years, I don't know, but this is the whole point of the Rwanda scheme. It's a deterrent. People will be less likely to come over and even try it if they're just going to be sent to Rwanda anyway. And yes, I think that's even true if they do get a free £3,000, because that can go towards flights to return home from Rwanda. Or I suppose it can be used again to try and get back to Britain, but the problem with that is that, well, we want to make it unprofitable. So I think, again, the £3,000 should only be allowed to be done the first time around. Or alternatively, you know, and there is precedent for this, by the way, as we will go through, but we can just turn them around in the channel. You know, if they're coming over via the channel route, just stop them there, even if they're in English waters, turn them around, send them back to France. They're not our problem. And we'll go through how we can do that a bit later.
When I saw him, that was awful. With handcuff, and I think nobody deserved that.
You don't think there's anyone in the world that deserves to be put in handcuffs? I mean, look, you can think it's unduly harsh. I mean, he is your friend, but after all, if the man is here illegally, you know, he's been trying his process for 2 years, and if it fails in the end, yeah, he's here illegally. You know, he is technically a criminal, and we're doing the best we can with that, which is just send him straight off to either Rwanda or Iran. Obviously, he took the Rwanda route, probably because it came with a free £3,000, and that was his choice. He was given options, he took one, he's been put to Rwanda. Oh no, he was in handcuffs. Yeah, I'm not shocked. Again, the man is here illegally. It's just what we do.
Did he know he was at risk of being sent to Rwanda?
No. He's a nice guy. He doesn't do any bad things, actually. And you know, when I saw him like that, I was so upset. I started to cry.
Again, this is just pure propaganda from Sky News trying to pull at your heartstrings. Oh, isn't the government just evil putting someone who is illegally here in handcuffs? No, not particularly. We have rules, we have laws, they need to be applied. If they're being applied, there's absolutely no problem whatsoever. I am not shocked at all that his friends don't like that, but I don't particularly care. Once their applications are done, and if they fail their asylum process, I expect them to be put in handcuffs and sent off to Rwanda too, assuming that's their choice. Of course, they'll also have the choice to be deported to Iran. I don't really care, but they are not allowed to stay here, so they have their choice. Rwanda or their home country, completely up to them. Anyway, the Home Office decided to put out a quick Twitter video showing off that they had finally deported someone. I mean, it's taken years, but I suppose they've finally done it. And I genuinely hope that week on week we get updated statistics on how many people have been deported. And I honestly hope that within, or by July, it'll be in the thousands per week. But anyway, as mentioned before, it was Whitehall and the civil service that is having to do these detentions and deportations. And quite literally a couple of days after this deportation occurred, we got this news. Civil servants mount court challenge over new law. I have said for quite a while that I don't really blame people like Priti Patel or Suella Braverman for talking a big game about illegal immigrants and things like that and then not actually managing to do much. As I've said for a while, it is because of the civil servants, and it's these type of smoking guns that I have to keep pointing out to say, look, these people do want to actually do what they say they're going to do about immigration. It's just the civil service makes it close to impossible, because as Liz Truss has been shouting on a megaphone for months at this point, Tony Blair and David Cameron and George Osborne and Gordon Brown effectively outsourced all parliamentary decision-making and all government power, not all of it, but an awful lot of it, to the civil servants, to quangos, to quote-unquote independent governmental organisations. And the civil service got an awful lot of that power, and that's why the civil servants are actually able to sue their own government over having to do their job. So the Union for Senior Civil Servants is launching an unprecedented legal challenge to Minister's Rwanda Plan. The FDA said it was intervening because it feared the scheme to send some asylum seekers to Rwanda could force officials to break the law. Under a new law, ministers can ignore the European Court of Human Rights and direct officials to organise flights. The Union wants the High Court to rule on whether that element would put civil servants into a difficult legal position. The FDA fears civil servants could be stuck between judges and ministers, and that direction to breach international law would put them in conflict with the Civil Service Code. Now, as we'll get into, the ECHR appears to be only the type of thing that applies to Britain. We have seen plenty of other European countries within the ECHR just deport people as soon as they can. I mean, there was a guy in France who said the tricoloured flag was sacrilege and satanic, and France just arrested him and deported him the next day. And bear in mind, freedom of expression is protected under the ECHR. Just, again, apparently it's only in Britain, and again, that only really applies if you're denigrating Britain, because that's the crazy world we live in. And that's not even touching upon the ridiculous idea that there can be international law within the UK when Parliament is sovereign. If Parliament says, ignore the ECHR, then that is parliamentary sovereignty in action. Ignore international law, that is not our law, ignore it, you'll be fine. But as we have seen for ages, the civil service really does hate the idea of deportations. It hates the idea of even having to do asylum claims. They have a lot of people in there who effectively just want open borders and effectively want to reduce their workload as much as possible. That seems to be the main objective here, because they are completely protected by their unions, and their ministers can do absolutely nothing about them, and if they don't like them, they can just get rid of them. Again, they got rid of Dominic Raab because he threw a tomato into a bag. Anyway, as mentioned before, it actually does appear that this Rwanda plan is somewhat working. At least if you look at the reactions from, well, some of our neighbouring countries, Ireland to be specific for this example. So, Ireland is planning to send asylum seekers back to the UK. And you might be wondering, what do you mean back to the UK? I thought they were all coming here because of the Gibbs. Well, the Taoiseach, Irish Prime Minister, I have no doubt I have said that wrong. And I did just look it up. You pronounce it Taoiseach, I think. Anyway, the Taoiseach Simon Harris has asked Ireland's Justice Minister to bring legislation to Cabinet to enable asylum seekers to be sent back to the UK. Helen McEntry has revealed that 80% of recent arrivals to Republic came from the UK across the Irish border. Oh my god. Taoiseach Deputy Prime Minister Michael Martin said the UK's Rwanda policy was already impacting Ireland. Legislation to revive the UK's Rwanda policy became law on Thursday. It aims to deter people from crossing the English Channel by sending some asylum seekers to the Central African country. No migrants have yet been sent from the UK, but obviously they have done now. And because this news is apparently getting around that if you come to the UK illegally, you will just be sent back to Rwanda, apparently already that has meant that an awful lot of people who have come to the UK illegally are going over illegally to the Republic of Ireland. So already this is showing that it is being used as some sort of deterrent. But obviously what the funny part here is that we've been told for ages that, oh, thanks to the European Court of Human Rights, we can't actually just turn people around and send them back to France, when it turns out, well, Ireland are openly asking if they can do that. And so if the ECHR actually applied to any country, then yeah, this is the type of thing that they would be stopping, but they're not bothering with it, because it's not the ECHR that cares about any of this, it's UK courts, it's the civil service, it's people that want to use it as a weapon. And I would not be shocked if similar things are occurring in Ireland, because Ireland appear to be having many protests in favour of illegal immigrants as well as the UK. And don't worry, we're going to get into that very soon. But first I also just want to touch on that there is a plan by Ireland to send police officers to the border to stop migrants entering the country, but it sparked a furious row between Rishi Sunak and the Irish Prime Minister on Wednesday. The Irish government announced that 100 police officers are to be redeployed to the frontline immigration enforcement duties in border areas after ministers claimed up to 90%, so even more, of asylum seekers arriving in Dublin had come from the UK via Northern Ireland. The proposals prompted Mr Sunak to warn Simon Harris, the Irish Prime Minister, because I can't remember how to say that already, that he must not create checkpoints or introduce hard borders between Northern Ireland and the Republic. He said the UK had made commitments to avoid a hard border as part of the Good Friday Agreement, the Common Travel Area, and the Brexit Withdrawal Agreement, and the Irish government must uphold its promises. But obviously, we appear to have just lost all respect in the European community. I mean, that was happening even before Brexit, so it's hard to even blame it on that. However, I would just have no respect for Ireland if they actually put these police officers there. The UK have gone out of their way to appease Ireland since the Good Friday Agreement. I mean, as far as I care, Tony Blair just appeased the IRA, and I don't think that was necessarily a good move, and ever since, every successive government has just tried to appease them more and more and more, and if they're not even trying to appease us, what is the point anymore? I mean, I don't want the Troubles or anything like that again, but this is clearly just one-way appeasement, and I just wouldn't bother with it anymore. Anyway, very last thing I'm going to mention about the Channel migrants before we get on to the final big topic is the fact that the Times are very, very good at keeping statistics on the Channel migrants. And firstly, they have this graph of the small boats crossing, and as you can see, from the years 2020 to 2022, we saw a gradual rise year on year of people crossing the Channel. 2023, well, between 2021 and 2022, looked like things were going to go down again, but now we come to 2024, and after literally months and months and months of Rishi Sunak saying we're going to stop the boats, stop the boats, stop the boats, as you can see, we've had more than ever so far this year. So while I say, oh, it's a good thing that they're coming to the UK only to then go to Ireland, obviously it would be better if they just didn't come here at all. So it appears that while there does seem to be a bit of a deterrent with the Rwanda policy, it's clearly nowhere near the level it needs to be. And, you know, to be fair, that is probably because it is not in full swing as they were expecting in July. But having said that, I fully expect to be making another video like this come September or October, pointing out this graph again and looking at the line being still way above 2022, because this is the clown decade after all, and things are only going to get worse before they get better. And that's not even to mention that yesterday, while all of the next segment was happening, we had the highest number of channel crossings so far this year at 711 people. So again, as far as the Rwanda deterrent goes, it's not in full force yet. Even when it is, I don't think it will be that good, but I think it's still a good idea to do so, because I want these people removed. Anyway, let's finally get into the big story. These were the scenes in Peckham yesterday. Yes, this is yet another protest of what looks like a bunch of students trying to stop a coach that is trying to get to a hotel in Peckham to try and move people who are currently living in a hotel to the Bibby Stockholm that is currently in the port in Portland in the south of England. And these protesters were throwing bikes underneath the coach to try and stop it moving whatsoever. Protesters even slashed the tyres of the bus. And naturally they were completely surrounding the bus doing their standard chants. And as you can see here, yes, they all look like they are of student age and have nothing better to do with their Thursday morning. And I suppose to be absolutely fair to the police, this is their reaction to the idiot students that were blocking the coach, slashed its tyres, were using public property to actually block it as well. And yes, to be fair to the police, they actually did their job here. 45 arrests in total at this protest. Exactly what is going to happen to them, I don't exactly know, but I mean, this is just a ridiculous situation we're in the UK. You need an entire police battalion to actually get, I think it was only 8 asylum seekers at least that were told that they're going to be moved to the Bibby Stockholm, and what, 50 students turn out to block the coach. And yeah, an awful lot of them get arrested. Thank God for that. So as I say, good on the police for actually dealing with these people, and I hope that every single one of these people get sentenced. They deserve punishment. We can't live in a world or a country where we simply cannot get rid of people who shouldn't be here. We can't live in that world. We can't live with an open door to the entire planet. It is completely unsustainable. I don't care what these 20-year-olds are saying. Anyway, since the bus had its tyres slashed, it couldn't actually make the trip from Peckham to Portland, so no migrants were actually moved. But as long as we can actually punish these students, I'll be fine with that. I will take that win. Anyway, there were also reports from some people supporting the protesters that the coach driver was arrested for saying this. But I can't find any source on that apart from a few things on Twitter, so I'm taking that with a pinch of salt. But it can be done for a public order offence with that, and I'm pretty sure that would also constitute a hate crime. But either way, yes, when you're in this situation, just don't swear. That's kind of the basic rule. You can't be done for a public order offence if you don't swear or don't say anything insulting. But obviously this guy's just got a job to do. He wants to do the job. He doesn't want to have this confrontation. And clearly he's just stressed and can't be bothered with it. And also, to be fair to him, I have absolutely no idea what was said to him. You can see the full clip yourself on Twitter down in the description. Because there is an awful lot of chanting going over this conversation, and we just happen to only hear what the bus driver says. It is actually quite unlucky. But as I say, I don't think anything has happened to him. I honestly don't think anything should happen to him because of the situation he's in. But if you find yourself in a similar situation, don't do what he did. Anyway, as I say, bit of a grey pill. No asylum seekers were moved to the Bibby Stockholm. However, 45 arrests made on protesters who are clearly causing damage to public and private property. Absolutely, they should be arrested, they should be charged, and they should be sentenced, with fines and community service, and the ringleaders possibly even facing jail time. So I shall keep an eye out for news stories like that, but for now, I think we should take the white pill that the Rwanda Plan can clearly work, and is clearly causing some sort of deterrent, at least in causing people here to move to Ireland. However, I think it will take maybe a few weeks or months, especially when the actual Rwanda Plan ramps up, for people crossing the channel to get the picture of, oh, there's actually no point. So give it time, we might be pleasantly surprised. I am not particularly expecting that. But if my expectations are kept low, I can only be surprised and happy. But as I say, it's the clown decade, so expect things to get worse before they get better. Right, with that, that's everything I had for you today. Bit of shilling, I believe, tonight on the Wellington Project. John is going to be carrying on Published and Be Damned, reading Enoch Powell's Wrestling with the Angel, mainly talking about the feeling of the 5,000, Enoch Powell's take on it, and some people from the Wellington Project's take on it. I won't be on there, but I like advertising our little project. As for me, Laughing at the Guardian returns tomorrow evening. I think I said earlier in the week that Dev should be on. Dev, unfortunately, isn't very good at replying to his DMs, and unfortunately can't make it anyway. So we will be having some returning guests on Saturday evening instead, so you can catch us there. We have The Other Side of the Hill returning next Tuesday. We will be doing The Other Side of the Hill talks, and so in that we will be discussing a particular subject that's been put forward by the community and voted on by the community. Based on the voting at the moment, it looks like we are going to be talking about why right-wing commentators are actually quite a big problem, and generally a net negatives, which I know is quite ironic coming from right-wing commentators ourselves, but, you know, I think it will still be a good conversation. So catch us on the Wellington Project there, and join the Discord, link in the description. And Regional Variations on Tale Features channel is still on every Wednesday, so catch me there. As usual, videos will still be 2 or 3 times a week. I hope as usual you're enjoying it. Please don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, don't forget to favourite, show it to everyone you think will be interested. And please as well, if you are that interested, become a member down below. I have 4 at the moment. It would be very nice to have more. The more I get, the more time I can spend improving my YouTube videos and things like that. So with all that shilling done, I would like to thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.